Hello, my name is Tim Schwartz. I'm an ER doctor that's practicing in Portland, Oregon, and I would like to talk to you for a minute about RFK Junior. Uh, as everyone knows by now, RFK Junior is running for president. He is from the prominent Democratic political family, the Kennedys. He's running as an independent currently. He had a traumatic childhood with the assassination of his father and uncle. He went through a period of drug addiction and then sort of turned his life around and became a very prominent environmentalist and was quite active and instrumental in the organization called the Water Keepers. Over the last 15, 20 years, he's become a very prominent skeptic, public advocate against vaccines, and I take issue with that, I guess. Now, people who my goal really is to talk to people who support RFK Jr. or find him to be interesting or find him to be a compelling figure. A lot of people that I talk to say that he seems to be not, quote, not a typical politician, someone who's sincere, someone who's willing to take on corporate corruption and powerful players. And in fact, my initial interest in RFK Jr. Was because I would basically debate my friends who really like him. I have several friends who admire him quite a bit and sort of stand behind what he says and feels like he would be a great candidate for president. I consider these friends to be intelligent people who have good intentions, and I respect them. It doesn't mean that I agree with them about RFK Jr. and as they would tell you themselves, we argue about it. But you won't hear me just dismissing RFK Jr. out of hand as a nut job or someone who's crazy or stupid, because I don't believe that. I think he's an extremely charismatic guy. I think he's a smart guy. A great orator, despite the problem he has with his voice. He's quite a compelling speaker, I think, and I think he really is captivating and has convinced a lot of people, to vote for him, but also to sort of believe his basic narrative about vaccines. Now, some people might say, hey, look, man, he's running for president. He said himself he's not leading with vaccines. He doesn't want that to be the primary part of his campaign. To that, I say, that's at this point probably not viable for me. He really made his name in the community through his anti-vaccine advocacy and through his association with the Children's Health Defense Network. I think I have that name right. And his prominence has grown exponentially since the COVID pandemic, and a lot of that has been in relation to vaccines. So I think it is perfectly defendable to explore the nature of RFK's rhetoric and the nature of his thinking through the lens of vaccines, and I think it is informative and instructive about whether or not he is someone that we should be relying on in any capacity. So what is it that RFK Jr. is saying about vaccines? The simple version is he's telling a story. And the story is that vaccines are causing significant, terrible harm to people, but children in particular. And that there really is no justifiable basis to give vaccines, and that this information that vaccines are causing harm is available, but is suppressed and lied about, specifically by the government agencies like the CDC and the FDA. And they are doing this because they are captured, which is signifies basically corrupted by big pharma. So that instead of the official idea that vaccines are given to protect the health of children, The alternative story that RFK Junior tells is that vaccines are given basically to be profit centers of big pharma, and that this is aided and abetted by government agencies who have essentially completely abdicated their duty to protect children and to protect the common good. So my problem, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, hey, look, I'm a doctor. You have to listen to me. I know I'm the one that has all the information. I'm not saying that. And in fact, I have no problem with someone making a contrary position or, challenging the authority or the powers that be and to have an alternative position. I have zero problem with that. My problem is with the nature of the rhetoric and the nature of the way he makes his argument, which I think is fundamentally irresponsible and basically misleading. For better or worse, RFK Jr. is a leading voice in this country when it comes to vaccines. He is extremely prominent and I think is an opinion maker. And, to make a responsible argument, he has to take the full context of vaccines and the diseases they're trying to prevent and the effects that they've had, both good and bad, into consideration. And he has to, I think, fully explore it and lay it all on the table, information that is both supporting his position and information that contradicts his position. And then if he wants to say then that, he still believes that these are things, these are medical treatments that shouldn't be given, that's fine. But I don't believe he does that. I think listening, my argument, what I'm going to try to argue and demonstrate in this series of videos is that you come away, if RFK Jr. is your only source of information, or even if he's not, after listening to him talk about these subjects, you come away with a diminished understanding of the issues at hand. You come away less able and less prepared to make sense of the salient issues that you need to understand to make a rational decision or a reasonable decision about whether vaccines are useful in general or whether or not you're going to give your kids vaccines or any other question like that. My goal in making these videos is to look a little deeper into RFK Jr.'s rhetoric. The topics I plan to cover are whether or not RFK Jr. is anti-vaccine, because that's something he contends that he's not. Another would be RFK Jr.'s discussion of safety testing and how that acts to sort of support his idea that vaccines are harmful. Another would be corruption. Corruption plays a big role. A lot of the credibility, or sort of a lot of his argument, rests on the idea that government agencies are corrupted, and I think by extension the scientific community and the medical community more broadly, and certainly big pharma in his telling. And then I'll be looking at the way he talks about science and how he uses that to also support his idea that vaccines are harmful. I'll also talk about sort of a combination idea between his conception of sort of a robust natural health and a disease minimization, what I call disease minimization, that the diseases that vaccines are designed to mitigate or prevent actually aren't that bad, that healthy people can tolerate them. There's really no justification to give vaccines. And then I think the finale, what I'd ultimately like to do at the end is to take a really deep dive into his relationship to Samoa, where there was a terrible measles outbreak, and he had, a relative front row seat to the events in Samoa, and was there shortly before the epidemic broke out. And
his agents, his Children's Health Defense made Facebook ads during that event, and he wrote letters to the Prime Minister and met with the Prime Minister and other anti-vaccine activists. And since that time has sort of washed his hands of any kind of significant involvement. And that's where I'd like to end this series. But I'm going to start with, we'll see how far I get, but I'm going to start with whether or not, a video about whether or not RFK Jr. Can be legitimately called anti-vaccine. All right, thank you.